Hi and welcome to ExtraSci. This is Life Sciences Grade 10. And in this video, we're going to be looking at Unit 1, the chemistry of life. I think in this video, we're only going to cover the inorganic compound. And then we're going to do another video where we'll be looking at the organic compound, which is still Unit 1, the chemistry of life. So, life is a molecule and cellular, but like I said, Unit 1, the chemistry of life. Under this unit, we'll look at the two types of compound, both the inorganic and the organic compounds. So the inorganic compounds. The inorganic compounds are those compounds that occur naturally in the environment. They are not products of living organisms. Some folks will classify inorganic compounds as those compounds that do not contain the element carbon, obviously with the exception of carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide. Given that these two compounds do have carbon in them, but they still occur naturally. So the main point here you can take is inorganic compound occur naturally in nature. They are not the products of living organisms. Now, example of inorganic compound include water, mineral salts, and fertilizers. Now, let's look more deeply to water. Water is the most important inorganic compound as it represents life. Most of the searches of life are really the searches of water. When you can see that people are going to a planet looking for signs of life, they're actually searching if there is presence of water in that planet. And these are some of the functions of water in living organisms. Water is a solvent. We all know that water is a solvent for both organic and inorganic compound, like for fertilizers, which are inorganic compound, and for carbohydrates, which are organic compound. Water is the universal solvent of life. Water is also the medium for chemical reaction. Most chemical reaction occur in the presence of water. You need water for them to happen. And then water is a reagent during hydrolysis. Now, what is hydrolysis? Hydrolysis is where water is used to break down large molecules into their monomers. Monomers are the building blocks of large molecules. So when you're breaking down those large molecules, you are breaking them down to monomers. Water is also a transporting agent. We will look at this when we're looking at support system in transport system rather in plants. Water is also a lubricant during the movement of food through the alimentary canal. The alimentary canal involves the esophagus and your intestines. Water regulates body temperature through sweating. We all know this. That when it's hot, you sweat. Now, why do you sweat? Because you want to regulate your body temperature. You want to cool down. When the sweat evaporates, that is when you start cooling down. Water also gives shape and rigidity in hydrostatic skeleton. Hydrostatic skeleton, we'll look more deeply in examples of skeleton when we're looking at support system in animals. And then the second example of an inorganic compound, these are mineral salts. What are mineral salts? So mineral salts are needed by all living organisms. All living organisms need mineral salts. Though they take them in different ways, but they all need them. They are essential for chemical reaction and the build-up of certain tissues. So plant will absorb them by the roots from the soil, and animals will obtain them from the food that they eat, which is the plants. So the plant will take them up as raw product on the soil, from the soil, and then animals will eat plants to obtain the mineral salts. And mineral salts are divided into two groups based on the amount that they are needed in. Some are needed in large quantities, and some are needed in small quantities. So the macro elements are needed in large quantities, hence macro. And then micro elements are mineral salts that are needed in smaller quantities. Now let's look at the examples. Now these are the examples of macro elements, the ones that are needed in large quantities. This is calcium. You've been hearing about calcium and strong bones and strong teeth. It's also needed in muscle contraction. It's also needed in nerve impulse transmission. And then there's phosphorus. At this time, I think they are new to you, because phosphorus is the component of ATP DNA and RNA. Maybe you've heard about DNA and RNA, but I think ATP is new. So what is ATP? ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate. Adenosine triphosphate. You can sometimes refer to ATP as the currency of the cell, and DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid. RNA is ribonucleic acid. Phosphorus is also part of phospholipids that make up the cell membrane. We'll look at these in more details when we're doing the cell membrane. This is a component of the cell. And then ATP too. And then there's potassium. Potassium acts as a coenzyme. So what is a coenzyme? The enzyme, and then there are coenzymes. Of course, we're going to look at coenzyme also when we're looking at organic compounds. And then there are examples of microelements now. These are the ones that are needed in small amount. They are needed, but they're needed in small amount. You don't, when overdose of these obviously will lead to catastrophic events. And these include iron and iodine. Now, iron is used in the formation of hemoglobin and chlorophyll. Hemoglobin is the transporting protein. Is the protein that is found in blood that transport oxygen, and then chlorophyll is needed for photosynthesis in plants. And then iodine is the component of the hormone thyroxine of the thyroid gland. Don't really stress too much about what is thyroxine and what is the thyroid gland. And then there's phosphate and nitrate. These are also minerals, but they are not elements, but rather compound. Obviously, as you can see there, I think you learn about this in chemistry. Phosphate is where 4 oxygen reacts with 1 phosphorus. Then you get phosphate. This is a compound. 2 elements, or rather more than 2 elements, are reacting to give you a compound. And then nitrate is when nitrogen reacts with 3 oxygen to give you nitrate. And this is also a compound, not an element. But they are also minerals, and they occur naturally. Like we said, all inorganic compounds or inorganic elements occur naturally. And then the last of inorganic compounds involve fertilizers. So fertilizers are used to enrich the soil with minerals. So what are fertilizers? Fertilizers contain minerals. We talked about minerals, now we're talking about fertilizers. Fertilizers contain minerals. They replenish the needed nutrients elements for crop production. Sources of common inorganic fertilizers include ammonium nitrate, ammonium phosphate, and potassium phosphate. Now let's look at this. Now these 3 fertilizers contain the most important mineral elements: nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, the elements that we were talking about. And then overuse of fertilizers, of course, will lead to leaching and eutrophication. These are new terms. Leaching is when these minerals are washed away during heavy rains into river dams. Now you don't want that to happen. When you overuse fertilizers, there's going to be leaching and there's going to be eutrophication. You don't want that to happen. So be wise when you're using fertilizer. To be like, I want a large crop production, then I'm going to put a lot of fertilizers. At the end of the day, those fertilizers are going to be washed away. So it won't be taken up by your plants. It's just going to be washed away into rivers and dams, and that's not good. This is a diagram depleting eutrophication. You can pause the video and look and then study this diagram at your own time, obviously. Now, fertilizers. The minerals in the river cause a drastic increase in the growth of algae and bacteria. Remember, these fertilizers contain needed minerals, right? Now, when these fertilizers are washed away into rivers and dams, these minerals are going to be in rivers and dams, and there's plant there. These plants include algae, and then there's bacteria also. Now this means there will be a drastic increase in the growth of both the algae and the bacteria, and this is not good because algae will then block sunlight from other photosynthesizing organisms, because algae is a photosynthesizing organism. When algae is now covering the whole river, it's going to block the sunlight for the other photosynthesizing organism, and that's a problem. Bacteria will use most of the oxygen that is dissolved in the water, which means now the fish are not going to be able to get oxygen. This leads to death of aquatic animal. This is eutrophication, which is not a good thing. And this is it for the video on inorganic compound. The following video is going to be looking at organic compound. Thank you.